Do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a proven roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. We walk you through the exact same process that we use to run franchise marketing campaigns for our clients at scale that has resulted in triple-digit growth. This blueprint isn't for anyone. It's not for people just starting a franchise. It's not for franchises without long-term goals. This is for franchises that want to scale up their marketing in a predictable and profitable way using a proven roadmap. If you want to sell more franchises, keep your current franchisees happy, and learn from people who have already done it, go to franchisegrowthblueprint.com and sign up today. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. Today, I am super excited. I have Brewski over here, who is the CFO and co-founder of Ctrl V. Brewski, welcome.
Yo, what's shaking?
I love the energy. Oh my gosh. Do you even drink coffee in the morning?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't go to sleep until 3 or 4 at night. So when you're getting up at like 7 or 8 or whatever it is, your coffee's quite a necessity.
Very cool. So for those who don't know you and your company, I'd love for you to kind of give listeners a quick rundown.
Sure. Well, my name is Robert Bruski. I like long walks on the beach, candlelit dinners, and puppies. I'm kidding. So I'm the Chief Financial Officer and co-founder with Ctrl V Virtual Reality. We are a virtual reality arcade. It's just as simple as that. People pay by the hour and they come in and play VR.
Cool. Very cool. So how did you first get started?
Well, actually, it's a bit of a long story, but it kind of coincides with my exodus from my job working for the man. I was working downtown Toronto on Bay Street, which is Canada's version of Wall Street in buy-side investment management. And there was a massive culture shift in the company that I was working for that really wasn't something I was into. So I left, and my business partner and I had started a company where we created a piece of cinema eyewear that was bifocal, and it allowed you to see 2 different things on the same film screen. So we patented this. We had a film deal with a big Hollywood studio, release in all the major movie theaters. And then there was some legal encounters that happened with one of our investors, which was totally out of our control. And we couldn't really do anything about it, but we had to fold up the company. But in the process of doing that, we sort of stumbled upon virtual reality. And so my business partner said, yo, listen, man, this is going to be big. Let's roll with this. So we brought in a third guy, and then we just, the rest is history.
Wow. That's quite the story. So what led you down the franchising route?
Oh man, because I love franchising. It's my favorite. I'm like a dog. When he wags his tail, his whole butt's moving. No, well, kind of, yes, not no. But so generally, like when we opened up, there's 2 kind of thought processes that we were going through. Is like we need to think about expanding. So how can we expand? There's always the option of going down the corporate route and just opening up more locations, which obviously requires more financing, a bigger staff system, human resources. And then there's the franchise opportunity, which allows us to expand faster, which we really wanted to do as a result of our business model. We were kind of worried that, the entrance costs into the VR arcade industry are fairly low. And if somebody gets in there and really doesn't know what they're doing, they could totally mess up the industry. And then we'd be running against the wind to try to, get in that market. So franchising kind of appeared very palatable at that time from that perspective. But also, when you franchise, your franchisees are kind of like your business partners, like you're in it together. So it was sort of a people-based decision. Like you're growing your team, you're building friends, you're getting into business together. So that was another kind of component that was crossing our mind.
Very cool. So you bring up a good point about like the VR arcade world having quite a low barrier to entry. So how do you balance franchise growth and being picky and finding, that perfect franchisee with that quick, rapid growth and expansion?
Well, I'll tell you that that quick, rapid growth and expansion through franchising doesn't work. You end up, well, I mean, it can work if you do your due diligence and you're very prudent, okay? But if you're just picking up franchisees, wherever they come from, you're going to have a really, really difficult time. You need to make sure that your franchisees are a fit for your business. On our website, which is www.virtualrealityfranchise.com, we've got the qualities that we look for in a franchisee. So we do a lot of vetting and behavioral tests and phone calls and all that sort of stuff to make sure that they're kind of the right fit. But that doesn't preclude us from being able to grow fast. I think there's a common misnomer within the industry that growing fast doesn't work. The thing is it doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, right? It depends on who's around you, who's part of your team. They say if you want to go far, you go. If you want to go, hold on, how does this go? If you want to go quick, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, or something along those lines. You know what I'm talking about? So if you've got a big enough team and they're the right people, you can go far, and you can do it reasonably quickly too.
Cool. I love how explicit you are in who you want to attract. Actually listing it out on your site. So, what have you found to be, I guess, the most effective questions or way to kind of filter out the good quality candidates from the bad quality ones that really fit with your culture?
Do you eat spicy food? Number one question tells me everything I need to know about them. I'm kidding. Of course. I think, our mission as Ctrl V is to make sure that we bring virtual reality to the masses. We make immersive technology accessible to everyone. It doesn't matter, what age, gender, whether you have a skill set for gaming or not. We work with seniors. We go into seniors' homes and have them swimming with whales. It can be used with education. We've got astronomy and chemistry and all these different types of games. But you can also just go shoot the head off a zombie too. So when you're kind of when that's your mission and you're really trying to do it for the greater community, you kind of think about, when you're bringing somebody on, are they going to be bought into the mission and what you're doing? And if they are, we're not a huge, we're the first virtual reality arcade in North America, potentially the world, but we are currently the largest VR franchise system in the world. You're spreading this mission, and people, even though we're that big, we'll call it air quotes. That doesn't mean people know us. We're not a big notable brand from Canada like Tim Hortons. So you're not only trying to further the brand of Ctrl V, but also virtual reality in general. So you have to be able to get out into the community. Community involvement is paramount. Word of mouth marketing is our number one type of marketing. So that's always kind of what I'm looking for. We'd rather not deal with somebody who's sort of reclusive and just, in their house, playing their game and don't want to talk to people.
Very cool. And so you bring up a great point, right? It's taking a local approach at almost like a national or provincial scale. So my question to you is, have you found that to be effective just on the franchise development side or on the consumer marketing side as well?
I think it's effective both ways. Hashtag local. A friend of mine, you may know him actually locally here. He's Ryan Smolkin. He's a founder of Smokes Poutineery. Him and Dean Blundell from the Dean Blundell Show, big Canadian radio celebrity. They've been doing a support local kind of podcast, video cast kind of thing online to show people that, during difficult times, you have to support your local businesses. And franchises are local businesses, right? Our franchisees are local owners. They hire local staff. They put in their own money, local money. They service local customers. And when people come to our virtual reality arcades, they're like, you know what? Yeah, let me talk to Josh or let me talk to Marilyn. They know these people by name because it is that local community. So from a franchise or B2B perspective, as well as a B2C perspective to the actual customer, it is hella important.
Totally. So and you know what, you bring up another point on a different tangent I want to go down is with this whole crazy COVID-19 crisis, how have you found pivoting your approach to growth in general?
That's a great question. So when COVID-19 hit, we shut down. All of our locations shut down for like the duration of whatever it took to get to stage three or 4 months. So there's no revenue coming in from a corporate location. There's no revenue coming in from our franchisees. And ultimately, we couldn't pivot. We can't do street curbside delivery, taking this stuff out to somebody's house. That sort of defeats the purpose of physical distancing. Plus, it's super expensive and can be complicated to use if you're not trained. So even renting it out doesn't work. So we ultimately couldn't pivot our business, and we got slammed by the government too, and all the different requirements that allowed us to open up. We should have been open sooner, but there was some misunderstanding at the government level. The rent relief wasn't very much help to us, so our business was suffering. So what we had to actually pivot was our mindset. Mindset is everything. We can get through this. We'll do our, from a very analytical standpoint, we can do our cash flow analysis. We can see what our burn rate is, see how long we can survive, where are we going to get different financing, do we have a war chest, etc. But even from a non-analytical perspective, making sure you're happy, making sure you're positive and look into the future. Warren Buffett or any value investor for that point, when everything is down, that's when they buy stuff cheap. So when everyone's mindset is down and you come in with this positivity and you bring that into the equation, your business shifts. Things could be burning, but you'll figure out a way to get through that if that's what's going on in your head. So I'm a huge proponent of that.
Totally. And so how did you help your franchisees through this as well? I'm curious about that, right? Like they're part of your system. They're your partners essentially in business. So what type of support systems did you help develop to help them both in that short term? And once we are out of it, we are in stage 3 now. How has that looked like?
Right. So I think the first thing to note is that at Ctrl V, we have absolutely incredible support systems. Our franchisees, they just have to ask or go on our intranet or whatever, and they can find an answer to anything. If there's bugs in our software, they put it in a GitLab, our team fixes it. If they've got issues with their, training or games or whatever, we're there. So we kind of reinforce that stuff. So if they needed to do a profit and loss review, I would sit there with them, do cash flow analysis. We had them all do that. We kind of helped them decide what to do with their landlords, depending on whether their landlord was opting into the rent relief. We provided them as much information as possible in terms of the different government support that was out there, how to apply for the ever convoluted Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which just keeps getting more difficult. So we try to kind of help them with that part of the business. And then from a mindset, every Wednesday we started doing a Zoom call. It's called Robert's Coffee and Positivity in the morning. Again, with these air quotes, that's not a me thing. I don't know why I'm doing that lately. Air quotes and hashtags. Anyways, so we did that. And we kind of got them talking to each other and out of their shell. And, sometimes it was a big gripe session. Sometimes we were talking about, one of them just had a child. So we were celebrating that or anniversaries or whatever it was. So we had that in. I started getting way more involved with them on a day-to-day basis, text messaging them, seeing we got one that's opening up in Florida. He's sending me photos of a 16-foot alligator that's in his backyard. And so we just kind of beefed up the friendship component of our business, because as you're growing a franchise, it becomes very easy to forget about the people component and just focus on the business and growth. But I think any franchisor out there, if they don't know, then they will learn very quickly, is as soon as you start franchising, you are no longer a virtual reality operator or a quick service restaurant operator or a fitness concept operator. You're not caring about, not that you're caring, but you're not so much involved in the development of the software, purchasing new equipment, different games, your cost of getting your pizza dough in and all that sort of stuff. That's what your team has to do. You as a franchisor now are 100% in the people business. If you're not selling businesses or selling franchises, you're developing that relationship with your franchisees.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that, right? Because this sense of building a community
it's an investment because you're just making your franchisees in that community that you're building around you stronger and stronger. And I'm sure it pays out dividends in the long run as well, especially as you onboard new franchisees throughout the FD sales process as well.
Yeah, it's important for your franchise system with your franchisees, but it's also important to be involved in something like that as a franchisor. Like I've got two other business partners, and when something goes right, we celebrate. When something goes wrong, we try to find a solution. But it's only the three of us, and sometimes you just need like a therapist or something to talk. But sometimes you need somebody to tell you what to do, somebody more experienced, So during, at the beginning of COVID, I called a friend of mine, Angela Cote. She's based out of, I guess you know her. And I said, listen, AC, I need to talk to other franchisors. So she put me in this group with four others, different concepts, non-competitive. And we were just able to brainstorm different ideas. How could we market better? All that sort of stuff. And it was so refreshing because I went to one of these franchise conferences and I'm like, I want to get all this information. I want to grow as a franchisor. I went to the panel and most of the moderators were asking very boilerplate questions, and I wasn't getting out of the panelists what I wanted to. When I went to a keynote, it was just somebody beating their chest about how awesome they are. And when I went to the social events, it was a lot of vendors and suppliers kind of saying, hey, listen, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm here on the company tab to drink and party. So I'm going to hang out with my friends that I haven't seen since the last conference. If you want something from me, come see me on the sales floor or on the trade floor. But the franchisors were gone. So Angela created this thing called the Play Bigger Performance Groups, which is like roundtables and masterminds jacked up, like way beyond anything you can expect. And this is one of the things that I'm in, and it's helped me grow as a franchisor better than like any book or anything, because I'm getting experience from my comrades or my colleagues that are in the same boat as me.
Yeah, I love it. And it's actually learning from people who are in the trenches with you. But as you mentioned, that they're not necessarily competitors with you as well, which is
right.
Very cool. I'm sure quite powerful.
Totally powerful, man. And it's fun, like we'll like have happy hours and we'll get drunk together, and then, we'll send photos and make jokes and complain and celebrate. It's great. But I think just very, very clearly, like the value that has come from that, I haven't received in any roundtable, any mastermind, any conference, anything like that. So that happened at the beginning of COVID, which helped me pivot my mindset as a franchisor as well, so that I could do what's important for my franchisees.
Very cool. Now, taking a step back, you mentioned that you have two other co-founders. So there's three of you. How do you manage responsibilities, and how do you make sure you're not stepping on each other's toes as you grow?
We'll get right back to the show, but do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. To find out more, visit franchisegrowthblueprint.com. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Now back to today's episode.
Oh man, that's easy because we're three different people. Okay, like you got to look at this. There's me, and who I'm like crazy and outgoing, but my background is in finance, economics, that sort of stuff. So I deal with all the CFO stuff and legal and sales and all that sort of stuff. Ryan is very, very, very technical, right? So he deals with all the development and coding and software and all that jazz. And then James is extremely customer service based. So he's involved with human resources and my deployment or development of new facilities. So we kind of gravitated to our own passions and our own skill sets, which is great. So we don't end up stepping on each other's toes. But every Monday we have an EOS meeting, which is a fruit of traction by Gino Wickman. And we discuss what's going on in our worlds. We talk about the issues that we need to decide on collectively. And then we kind of make fun of each other, and then we get angry and yell at each other and move on with life.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys are quite the triple threat there.
Yeah, we are. Watch out!
I love it. So let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk a bit about marketing. So, you mentioned going really on that local level. I'd love to hear a bit more about how you've scaled that out, especially from like a data and attribution side. How do you see what's effective and what has really turned the needle for you, across all of your locations?
hmm So I'm glad you asked that because we love data. So us, as well as all of our franchisees, when we're running marketing campaigns, I mean, there's a whole bunch of due diligence, right? If you're investing in a marketing agency, there's a vetting process that they go through. If you're doing a campaign, you're thinking about above the line marketing, below the line marketing, what's trackable. How you can track something in an innovative way that you normally couldn't track. If it's not trackable, how, what's the perceived ROI on that, or is it worth spending that money, just in case? And then it's all put in, we go through the approval process and guidelines and all that sort of stuff, but then it's all put into a marketing ROI spreadsheet where franchisees can see each of their campaigns that they've run, what the ROI on them has been, and whether they want to repeat one or try one, and sort of compare that to their different revenue graphs. We've got all these dashboards and KPIs and the works, right? So, but the one that's always difficult to track is community involvement. In theory, you could go out and pack food hampers, and if you're talking to somebody and say, if you go to Ctrl V, just use this discount code, and you can see how well that worked. But that becomes a little too promotional, right? We're out there to help the community, to do things in the community, not necessarily help it, right? But also help it to it's good for the soul, it's good for the business, So we do a massive charity event every November called Extra Life. It's 24 hours of VR gaming. All funds go to the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. Right now, kind of post or tail end of COVID, we're selling masks that support this. We also do things for Help Me Dog Rescue. We get out there and pack food hampers, but we're also doing things in the community, like during a blues festival or a jazz festival. We're setting up our booth so people can check it out, and just being part of organizations, whether it's as Ctrl V or personally. I'm a mentor with the Founders Institute, which is a virtual accelerator based out of California. The chapter in Waterloo, of course. By the way, anyone listening, I'm in Waterloo. And I like long walks on the beach and candlelit dinners, blah, 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 blah. But also, different boards. I'm on the board of Roof, which is a shelter for at-risk and homeless youth. I'm on the board of Innovate Inclusion, which is an organization that helps Black entrepreneurs sort of get their footing. Just all sorts of stuff, even hobbies, right? Like I play pool, I go kickboxing, I play basketball, and I'm in a rock band. The more people you touch while you get out there and they know about what you're doing, then when they're saying, hey, what do you want to do tonight? You want to go play VR? No. They'll say, what do you want to do tonight? Let's go to Rob's VR place or Ryan's VR place or James's VR place. It makes that connection. It's so important.
Totally. First of all, holy schmoly, I don't know how you have time to run a business on top of all of that. You must be part machine, or you have a USB, literally a USB thumb, and you just plug yourself into a computer. But wow. So you mentioned that you use unique ways of attributing, especially on the innovation side. So love to hear, what are some of those innovations that you're using right now?
Right. Okay. So, any type of above the line marketing, below the line marketing, now I'm getting them confused, but whichever gives us data back, like Google and Facebook and things like that, we have all of their dashboards that we can use, right? But we've built our own kind of internal system spreadsheet that can kind of pull that stuff in and calculate, right? So that's the fact that these social media engines provide that data isn't very innovative, but the fact that we're able to pull it in and slice and dice it, that's fantastic. There are some pretty developed softwares out there that do it too, that may have done it even better than us. But the great thing about having an internal dev team is that if you need changes on the fly, they can make it, right? To suit you. But when it's something that's that you don't know, we haven't really done any billboards, but like a coupon or an ad or things like that, the coupon codes are always fantastic. You run the risk of always doing something promotional. When you're out there and you're doing this community involvement or social media, for example, in priority, your posts or your message should be number one, informative, number two, entertaining, and number three, promotional, in that order. If you're constantly promotional over and over and over, people are like, all right, here's just another sales pitch, another ad, right? So we use these coupon codes once in a while, but sometimes that can get redundant or maybe not as appealing for people. We track, everyone has to fill out a liability waiver, which is built in contact tracing as well. But in that waiver, we find out how people have heard about us, and then we can deploy marketing efforts in that way specifically. A big one actually that we do is our grand opening. Every location does a different grand opening strategy, but like you're spending at least 15 grand on this. And, when we opened our corporate location, we had 800 people lined up for free 10-minute demos on like the hottest day of the summer in 2016. I was running around with cases of water. We had a family in there doing timers and making sure traffic was going properly. It was cool.
Wow. So tell me more about that. I'm really intrigued. So what makes a good grand opening? What should people and other franchisors do to really crush it from the get-go?
Yeah, get people to your location. Get them to the location. Okay, that's what makes the grand opening, not necessarily conversions, right? Like we had to turn some people away at the end of the day because we had to close up, and we could have kept going all night. But they're there. They know about it. They heard other people coming out and saying, "Oh my gosh, that was the best thing since butterscotch pudding." So that helps spread the word of mouth. You get that, and that's with VR. It's kind of easy because like as soon as you try it, it's almost addictive. It's so cool. But whether you're a quick service restaurant concept or a fitness concept or whatever, there's something so whatever however your demographic consumes their advertising, maybe it's radio, maybe it's print, maybe it's online, whatever it is, isolate those channels based on your demographic research and bring in people. And not necessarily only demographics. We found that actually psychographics are very important. Because it's so easy to just like get some statistics from some statistics organization and slice and dice and be like, this is how many males and females, this is their income bracket, this is where they live, and boom. And you're like, all right, so what do I do with that? But if you're able to isolate that 10% of your business is birthday parties, and birthday parties are typically booked by the mother and not the father, and you can find out that mother on average has 2 children, then now where do moms of multiple children hang out? Are they big into photography? Because maybe they're in photography forums or whatever it is,
Cool. I as someone who studied economics, I love the data-driven approach to it.
Oh man, you're an econ grad too?
Oh yeah.
I love that stuff.
Heck yeah. So one question I always love to ask is, what advice would you give someone just starting out as a franchisor?
As a franchisor. Okay, specifically as a franchisor, because I could give advice just as a small business owner or a startup or entrepreneur or whatever. Is specifically as a franchisor is make sure you have enough money because it's going to be expensive. Make sure your systems and all that sort of stuff is designed out so you don't have to retrain people over and over because you didn't get your training right properly. And make sure you pick the right franchisees. That they need to be a fit. So often I see somebody who's like, let me franchise, and they go online and they find these so-called franchise factories where somebody will charge them, 50, 60, 100 grand and say, okay, here's your franchise disclosure document. Here is your operations manual. Here is your brand guidelines. Now go. And they think they're able to franchise, but they're missing so many components of it.
Cool. Very, very good advice. Very good advice, Brewski. So we are ending this episode. One way that I always end it is with something called the lightning round. Don't worry, it's short, easy breezy questions. I promise I won't throw any curveballs on you.
Let's do it.
All right. So first question is, what is your favorite tool or app that you cannot live without?
LinkedIn.
What is your favorite book?
Oh, favorite book. Liar's Poker, maybe?
Okay. Who is the franchise founder or leader that you look up to most?
I think probably Angela Cote.
Yeah, she's smart. She's real smart.
For sure.
And last question, where can people find out more about you and your franchise?
virtualrealityfranchise.com. That's our franchise or corporate website. If you want to see what our customers see, it's Ctrl V.ca or CtrlVarcade.com.
Awesome. Well, Brewski, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your knowledge. You dropped a ton of knowledge bombs. I'd really appreciate it.
No problem, man. I got tons of stuff I can send you.
All right. Take care. Thanks again.
You, buddy. See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. If you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and subscribe now so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And until then, happy marketing.